Okay, now we will learn how to deploy a Windows server in Azure. And why is this needed? This is needed because Windows Docker containers can only be launched using Windows Server 2016 containers. And Windows Server 2016 is not officially launched. So basically it is currently a technical preview, basically a pre-release as of August 2016. The fastest way to launch a Windows Server 2016 container in Azure is by using Azure's GitHub page, that is Azure's Quick Start templates. Now this contains various what's called templates, which is basically a recipe or a playbook which is used by Azure to deploy a template with some default settings. And this is currently the fastest way to get started. But again, as with all templates, it is best not to use this for production. It's best to create your own templates, and for that it is best to learn how to create and manage your Azure templates. So in this page, in the GitHub page, I have this button deploy to Azure, which is a neat little tool. It essentially takes you to the Azure portal and selects the options and takes you to the create page. So now all you have to do is edit some basic parameters and then hit the create button. So let's go ahead and do that. For the name of the VM, it is important to remember it cannot be more than 15 characters. There are some various other rules, but out of experience, what I've learned is something simple works the best. So let me just choose Azure Windows. Username, let me just choose Azure. And the password. The password has to be greater than 8 characters. It should basically have everything in the book. It should have uppercase, it should have lowercase, symbols, special characters, and it has to be long enough. So choosing a nice little secure password here. And the DNS name. This is used to create a public record for the public IP that you are going to use. So now I'm going to choose something. The other part is that this cannot already be existent. So for example, if I choose wish over here, that's not allowed if wish already exists in the DNS record. So let me just choose something for application. Now hit OK to save the changes. And then let's create a resource group. And here it will be called Docker Windows. It's best to create a new resource group when you're getting started, just so that, okay, let's see what this came up. All right. So apparently resource names also need to be unique, and they should not be trademarked or reserved words. So I cannot use Docker or Windows. So let's use my name, resource group 1. See if that works. Yes, it did. The location, West US, I'll just choose that by default. And then you need to review the legal terms. Create. And you will see some basic notifications here on the right. You can also monitor your notifications using the bell icon. Let's go ahead and click on this. So this is your deployment dashboard, you can call it. Let's maximize that. Here's your template link. As you can see, it is using the Azure Quick Start template. All the details that you used for making this template. Let's hit refresh periodically. Okay, so looks like some of the steps have succeeded. Okay, and after approximately 10 minutes, the status is now succeeded. Here you go, status is okay. And the provisioning state, if you click on each of these events, will say succeeded. Now that our Windows Azure machine is up, the next step is to be able to connect to it. Now there are various ways to connect to a virtual machine running on Azure cloud. Since this is a Windows VM, the best way is to connect via Windows Remote Desktop. And to do that, we can press this command connect button over here, which basically downloads what's called an RDP file. Okay, and this RDP file is a shortcut which contains the information required to connect to that machine. So let's just go ahead and click it. Now we have to use the username and password that we configured into the Azure Windows image while creating it. This is just one of the ways to connect to the Windows machine. There are various other ways. This is just the simplest. Okay. Now I've already connected to this machine before, so that's why it took relatively less time. But the first time that you start the virtual machine, or the first time that you connect to the virtual machine, it will throw up various connectivity dialogues. Now the primary tool that you will run inside the virtual machine is PowerShell. That's one of the tools that allows you to manage the virtual machine. Now that we have figured out how to connect to the machine, the next thing we need to do is to install Docker. Now, the important part is that this Windows VM does not come pre-installed with Docker. What we need to do is first we need to hit the web page that talks about this. Now, it is important to remember that this information is all it all deals with a technical preview, and therefore it is subject to change. Having said that, what we need to do is first we need to install, basically enable the Windows features called container. And all these commands, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, these 5, 6 commands need to be run using PowerShell. And at the end of it, what we will have is we will have the Docker daemon running on a Windows server. So let's come back to our server. Close everything and start it again. So tools, Windows PowerShell. And the first command, let me just minimize this a bit so that I can type it as we go along. Install Windows feature containers. Now, I've already done this before, so it should be fine. Yes, okay. So this Windows feature has been enabled. Now, the next thing it's saying is to restart the computer, but apparently this is not needed. So let's just go ahead and not restart the computer. Next part we need to do is we need to download this zip file and save it to the temp directory. Now this is PowerShell, and in order to understand what this does, you can always hit the PowerShell reference for the invoke web request command. As simple as that. These things are called commandlets in PowerShell, and essentially what this does is it is the equivalent of curl or any other web request parser. So let's just copy paste whole thing into this. Okay, done. And then I'm going to unzip this zip file. What this downloads is a zip file, right? So I'm going to unzip that. The next is to set an environment variable Okay, let's kind of understand what the zip file has been doing here. It has unzipped the zip file which got downloaded to the temp directory into the program files folder. So let's verify that that has been created. So C program files has a folder called Docker. Okay. Now what we need to do is we need to install Docker as a service. So let's do that now. Before that, what we need to do is we need to set an environment variable which points to the location C program files Docker. Done. Next, what we need to do is to install Docker as a Windows service. Okay. And since I've already done this before, I'm just doing it again for the benefit of this video. I got some error saying that the service exists. So that's fine. Last, I need to start the service called Docker. Done. If you want, just to verify, you can go to services.msc and you can verify whether that service exists and it is running. So let's expand this. As you can see, my connection is a tad slow. Okay, you see Docker engine over here. It says it is running. So that's great. Going back to PowerShell. All right. So that's all the commands we need to run from PowerShell. Close it over there. Whatever commands related to Docker we need to run, we will need to run it from your regular command terminal. So let's just run Docker, see if it works. Great. So it works. And that means all of our, and the important part to remember here is that this Docker is not running inside a virtual machine or anything like that. It is running natively. It is a native Windows application using all Windows concepts and Windows services in order to execute Docker commands. Now, it is important to remember one thing here. Windows Server 2016 cannot be used to run any other container apart from Windows. Meaning that you cannot run Hello World, you cannot run Linux, you cannot run Nginx, you cannot run Ubuntu, you cannot do anything else apart from running Windows containers on Windows Server. And before you run these Windows containers, you need to execute the following command, which is basically what it does is it downloads what's called a base image called Windows Server Core. I've already executed this command over here, Docker pull Microsoft Windows Server Core. So that's like a 3.5 GB image. So it'll take quite a lot of time to download and extract that image. And just above that, you can see the output from trying to run Hello World, that guy over there. You can see that it has failed with some very weird looking errors. The image has finally downloaded. What do we need to do next? So what are the images that are available for Microsoft Windows? The easiest way is to search for all containers that have Microsoft in it. There you go. So, all containers that are published by Microsoft are obviously they work with Microsoft Windows.